Stacey J.
And I'm Chuck Duran.
Welcome to another amazing episode of VO Buzz Weekly.
That's right. And we're so excited today. We have the awesome Nancy Wolfson with us, and you guys are in for a big treat.
Yes. When describing our guest, words come to mind like knowledgeable, dynamic, and intense. She is the brilliant mastermind behind BrainTracks Audio and is a highly sought-after private coach and teacher, demo producer, casting director, and personal branding expert. Get ready and buckle up, you guys, because you're about to get seriously buzzed with the incredible Nancy Wolfson.
Nancy Wolfson, welcome to VO Buzz Weekly.
Thank you.
Hello.
Woo! I'm so excited
Look
to
at
be
you.
here.
I gotta say, the hair looks way
Gorge.
fabulous.
Thank you. Well, it's
I'm
the
like
hair
totally
club.
jealous. That's rock star hair right there, ladies and
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
So thank you for coming down and sitting down with us and everybody out there. We know we're going to get a lot of stuff today, but I know that you're super busy, and she was nice enough to say, yeah, I'm going to come and share with you guys and teach people things that they never thought possible. No, not that. Anyway, so thank you so much. We
Thank
really
you. It's
appreciate
an
it.
honor. This is excellent.
Cool. So I'm going to kick it off by asking
Yeah.
you something. Let's talk demos. Right off the bat, okay?
Okay. You and me, let's go.
Let's go, man. You and I we both produce the best demos in the business.
We do.
Yes, it's true.
We do.
What's really fun is when I refer people to you because you can watch their minds scramble. Like, she does that for a living. Why would she be sending me elsewhere?
Yeah, but I do the same.
Yeah, and you did the same to me.
So it's
all
like, you
good.
know, yeah. Some people are best suited for
Right.
Nancy. Some people are best suited for me. And you'll learn that.
Yes.
So what I wanted to say is, what do you think sets your demos and what you do in your process from the rest?
Well, specifically in the area of commercial demos, what sets them apart is the perspective I bring to it before I even begin building them for people. Having been an agent and currently acting as a casting director and an opportunity facilitator for a lot of people, I have a unique view from the balcony. And so I was that person who received demo submissions from tons and tons of people, not just in Los Angeles and Hollywood, but from all over the world looking for representation. So I used to guard the gate, as it were, and
Right.
determine whether that demo reflected somebody I wanted to represent. Was that a marketing tool that whet my appetite? And so I was that person who used those demos to determine whether or not I thought they were interesting or viable. And before I began the business of producing demos myself, I did a lot of personal inventory about, well, what was it that grabbed me about those demos?
Right.
And so I built them according to what at the time had been an esoteric, undefined set of expectations. Well, I defined and codified that set of expectations when I began producing them for other people, so that the colleagues in the industry who refer talent to come get their demos done by me know that I'm making them a demo that I myself would have found interesting. So it's that view from the balcony. It's sitting at the intersection of auditions and opportunities
Yeah.
myself that helps me know, like, does this demo confuse me with too much versatility? Does it put forward a brand that I'll be able to pick that person out of the
Yep.
atmosphere and go, ooh, I know what that person is? A lot of times there's no way of knowing whether what's on that demo really reflects that person's skills or not.
Sure.
Which is why I insist on people doing some coursework with me before I make them a demo. But in terms of the style that we put forward on the demo, that's largely determined by the style that I unconsciously and then consciously assembled back from having transitioned from an agent to a demo producer.
Exactly. So your options are, you get your little friend to help you out in his garage and put a demo together that won't work for you, which a lot of people
Yeah.
do. I always say, hey, you know what? Can I make my own demo? Yeah, you can paint your own car too. But
I always say you can make your own dress for the Oscars. I wouldn't.
there you go. You can do a lot of things yourself, or you can go see somebody like Nancy,
Or
who is
Chuck.
going, or me, who is going to take the time to really tailor this thing to actually work. That's what we want.
Right.
Bottom line, very
Trying
cool.
to get into advertising, and it's an advertisement on yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
So-
exactly. There you go. Cool.
So, Nancy, many people have said that when they coach with you, they get so much more out of it than just how to make money in voiceover, especially speaking to your branding expertise, that it really touches them on a personal level. Can you speak to why you think that is?
I think anytime someone is brave enough to embark on a journey of realizing a dream, they might not realize it on the front end, but they're embarking on a journey of self-discovery. Everybody's got personal style. Some people don't realize that they do. Some people don't give themselves enough credit for having personal style.
Right.
Some people want to broadcast a personal style and they're not doing that effectively. Some people don't even realize what they're walking in the room with. But everybody's got personal style, and the act of helping people realize what that personal style is so much fun, and it's so informative for them. How does that happen? Well, it happens firstly because, advertising, acting, animation, it's interesting.
Yes.
People, to me, are fascinating.
Right.
And so when you're working with somebody on something like acting, you're going to run into walls of discomfort. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not learning.
Exactly.
And so when we start to experience that discomfort, that's where the good stuff happens.
Exactly.
And that's where we see like, oh, interesting, you're not comfortable expressing negative emotions. What's that all about? Why are you not releasing your voice? When you surrender your voice, you really surrender your rights to yourself, to your personal expression, and unlocking a person's voice really unlocks their sense of their right to express themselves. And that's a really neat thing to give people.
Yeah.
And you're that's something that you're great at.
Thank you. I love it.
So and the
Well, and
people,
it's so great to be able to witness that when somebody really just
Yeah.
surrenders and is vulnerable and says, I'm going for it. That's such a great moment for both
Absolutely.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And people come to realize things in their personal lives that they never realized that they could have achieved, whether it's simply speaking up in a dysfunctional marriage where they always looked down and swallowed their mouth and swallowed their thoughts and didn't speak up, and getting out of difficult relationships, or, gosh, there's so many stories. One of my favorite ones was a gentleman who I heard, he was being interviewed on an HBO special, a veteran from Afghanistan. And I was doing something in the kitchen and I heard the TV on in the background. I do a lot of things while I'm not watching. And it's a sound business, right? And I heard this guy, and he was talking about how he had been blown up by a roadside bomb, lost both legs, an arm, and part of another arm. And he used to be an athlete. And I'm sitting there unloading the dishwasher, multitasking, and I'm hearing him speaking, and I'm like, what a voice. Interesting. He's got that hip, groovy, cool. And he started to talk about how he used to be an athlete and how what he was dealing with now was this feeling of worthlessness. And he just felt like he wasn't good for anything. And meanwhile, I kind of barely heard him say that. And I'm thinking, he is so freaking castable. He's so valuable, because in our world, I'm thinking here to here. I'm not even looking. I'm unloading the dishwasher.
Yeah.
And I thought, God, this guy is great. I got to get a hold of this guy. And I turned around and I saw him. And, he was positioned on a stool. And I thought, oh, man, people in our world, we think you're infinitely valuable. And I got in touch with him and worked with him for a while. And helping somebody like that realize that they still have tons and tons of personal value and even possibly a career.
Well, so you actually seeked him out?
Oh, for sure.
That is so cool.
Oh, for sure.
Who does that?
How do you not reach out? Well, because I used to be an agent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Okay, well, on that note, you were an agent at a high-powered Hollywood agency.
Yeah. I'd like to think it was high. It was. It was.
It was high-powered. You were there.
Okay, thank you.
It could have been schlubby if you were there. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So you're doing that, and then you decide, nope, I'm going to go be a teacher and a coach. Why did that happen? What was that shift for you?
I got fired.
Okay. Well,
That's
Simple.
okay. Well, that's
Usually when we get fired, we go into something else,
That's
right?
Getting fired keeps making my career better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, one of these days I need to fire myself to kick it up to the next level.
Yeah.
Or maybe a
well,
vacation.
clearly
I
it
don't
didn't
know.
keep you down long.
No, it didn't. I've sort of had my own way about doing things ever since I was a kid, and sometimes that works for you and sometimes that doesn't work for you.
Exactly.
As a class clown as a kid, that gets you in trouble. As a grown-up person, that gets you fired. But when you really have a vision for how you think things need to be, it can be a game changer for the game with a capital G. It was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
It's a game changer for a lot of other people. But it turned out to be a game changer in the business. So, it was great. It's really not this sounds so cliche, but it's not really the bad things that happen to you, but it's what you do with the bad things that happen to you.
Absolutely.
And what I did with it was so much better than the event. So, it was great.
We can't.
cool.
Can we reveal what you did to get fired? We can't do that, huh? That would
This
be
is the
bad.
internet, right?
This is the internet. It'll live there forever.
Is this pay to play?
No, this is free.
Then probably not, no.
Okay. Yeah, if there's a residual involved, she might
She
be
didn't
able
clean out the coffee pot, Nancy.
Oh, wow. Well, I have a cool question for you. One of the cool things about VO Buzz Weekly, like we were just talking about, is that it's on the internet and it's global. We have a global reach. Okay? So how can somebody from another country benefit from you? Or can they?
How can they not? Absolutely.
How can
I would
they
have they could have always benefited from my work with them in theory, in terms of realizing their personal style, coming to better understand how to relax enough to find what word to hit in the sentence, what's the operative moment in the spot, what are you after, what's rhetorical antithesis, why, the coursework. They could have always benefited from that.
Yeah.
And prior to the internet, prior to casting sites that live online. And in fact, they did. Even prior to the advent of the online casting sites, I coached people. I speak a couple of different languages, so I've coached people and done demos in other languages. But now that the business has gone...
You speak Italian?
Not yet.
Okay. Me neither.
What languages do you speak?
French and anecdotal Spanish.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks. And so when the business changed thanks to the internet and a couple of other factors, the business went non-terrestrial, so my business went non-terrestrial, and the people who could benefit from this didn't have to live within my zip code or my area code. So, and I don't just even mean within Beverly Hills or Hollywood. I mean, I have students. I had students this morning. I start the morning with people in the UK because of the time difference.
Yep.
I have students in Africa. Round up the end of the day with students in Australia. I had students in South Korea, not North Korea yet.
Yeah.
And Austria, it's pretty global. I even had a student in Japan. The nuts and bolts of how to break down copy.
Exactly.
That can vary from culture to culture. Spain and Italy, the work that I've done with people in those cultures, their advertising is not the same as ours because their culture is not the same as ours.
Exactly.
So, sure, what word should one emphasize in the sentence? Some of those core things are the same. But in terms of like, wipe that stupid smile off your face, we're broadcasting this in North America, that doesn't really apply in Japan.
Exactly.
So I have taught people in other cultures, it's just required a little bit more homework for me.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure that I research the environment that they're in.
Exactly.
And so that I can honor their environment.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool, man. That's very detailed. I mean, nobody does that, which is really cool.
It's a lot of fun. I gotta
fun.
say, it's so much fun.
You look like you love it.
I
gotta
love
say, right?
Yeah. I have heard that when you have your first session with a student, prospective student, you ask them why voiceover. So we're going to turn it on to you now and say,
oh, yeah, excited.
Why voiceover? I mean, you have a background in music, stand-up comedy, film, television, agenting. Why are you here?
Wow. Et2 coach.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever really asked that before. You know why voiceover? Because I spent 20 years of my life, kind of the most important ones, being really, really heavy. And I think that's not exactly why I got into voiceover. When I look back on it, I think that's what made it intensely attractive to me, and why I choose to champion people who have skills and talents that are developed from the inside out rather than the outside in.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And people say that I'm tough and mean and all that kind of thing all the time, and we'll get to that later. But while that might be true, I have an empathy for what hones the personality, and it's usually not the easy, fun stuff. And I don't say this in a victim-y way because, when you're drowning everything in buckets of dryers, you're doing it to yourself. It's like really not
absolutely.
a disease.
Yeah.
It's, but I spent a lot of years being invisible, and at least visually. And ironically enough, I worked in areas of the industry. Why do we do these things to ourselves? Wait, let me just make that particular. Why do I do this to myself? I always make the mountains really hard to climb for myself.
Yeah.
But I graduated from Vassar with a degree in 19th century American literature. And the first job that I took out here, which was actually an amazing, amazing job, I worked for Playboy. And
Nancy.
You didn't.
Yeah, so
masochistic.
Yeah, and so it was really tough, because I was 20 years old and a good 90 pounds more than I am now, chewing frozen Snickers bars and spitting the wrappers outside the window, driving Anna Nicole Smith, who's like my age, to shoots, and having all kinds of people just pass me over as if I were a hologram, and the things you judge, you keep from yourself, right?
Yeah,
so I used to think that they were all
exactly.
nitwits and morons, and how smart could they possibly be? They were pretty smart. Not all of them, but like a lot of them, and there were interesting people with interesting backgrounds and interesting stories, and I made a lot of great friends there, and it was very interesting, but I was always looking for what was behind the artifice, because I needed people to look behind my artifice.
Yeah.
And so voiceover just seemed a natural progression. I started in the on-air promo department at Playboy, and then I wrote and produced on-air promos for some networks, and Then I worked for ABC Movies and miniseries and did some other things in the industry. I worked at a talent management company, but for stand-up comics, not for on camera. And I just started to notice that a lot of the common denominators had to deal with managing and developing talent who had something really unique to say
Yeah.
Right.
from the inside out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then when I circled back on working in the area of promos, I really realized that I enjoyed working on the directing talent part of things.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed working in animation when I worked for a talent management company where we represented celebrities. And I was very interested in getting them into animation. And at the time when I was coming up from being an assistant to being a manager, and it was a very fancy management company, and we represented huge stars, like icons. And they said, okay, well, you've outgrown your role as an assistant. We're going to make you a manager here. Would you like to work in the area of music, TV, film, comedy? And I thought, okay, well, the only way I'll succeed and be better than the other managers here is if I do something that nobody else is doing.
Right.
So I thought, how about, let me do what nobody else wants to do and I'll do it brilliantly.
Yeah.
How about animation and commercials? And they just looked at me like I'd grown a third head, and they said, yeah, you know what, celebrities don't do cartoons. Our celebrities don't.
Yeah.
And I thought, tick tock, this movie just came out, Aladdin, and I thought, yeah, no. And they said, if you want our celebrity roster, you can take it with you anywhere you want to go. You know how to go sign a celebrity anywhere.
Right.
Take it with you. Love you. But this maybe isn't the place for you. And so I went and started a celebrity department at a talent agency here in Los Angeles. And I just went after every celebrity that had never entertained the notion of doing voiceover. We couldn't compete with the top shops that had really famous actor celebrities. But then I thought, well, who else knows how to use their voice really well who's a celebrity? Singers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I went back to my contacts in the music industry and went after all, the great thing about being in Magic Town is that I just took out all my albums and all my I made a wish list of my favorite people who I wanted to meet.
Yeah.
I had the mighty powerful talent agent caller, right? As a calling card, I'm a powerful agent, they'll return my phone call, and I had enough moxie to just get people on the phone. And so I just started calling up my heroes and bringing them in for auditions, and it was really amazing.
That is so cool.
Brilliant.
That is really
So
cool.
that story took us someplace totally different, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, but it's good. I mean,
Yeah.
you answered it. You went around somewhere, and then you came back, and we got even more information than we asked
No,
for.
but you do hear that, oh, Nancy and the tough love, and she's, cruel to be kind kind of thing. But you have a sensitivity, and, when you push people from a place of love and compassion, it's very different than being mean. And you're
For
not
sure.
mean. I
Yeah.
mean, you're not mean, but you are.
You weren't in my house at 10:30 this morning, but okay.
She can be.
But you're
Right.
not. When you have somebody who's saying, "I'm coming to you,"
Right.
with my heart on my sleeve, I want to do
Right.
this, and you're not going to stomp on it. You're going to say it's not going to be easy, but
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm not helping them if I blow smoke.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
And if they present themselves to be difficult on a professional level, that might be where I get a little tough, because if they don't get past me, they're not going to get past an agent or a casting director, or they're going to tank their own business.
Exactly.
If they're unprofessional or narcissistic or don't take responsibility for the things that they don't do on a professional level.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the learning process, as much as I'm a coach, I'm their champion. Nobody
Yeah.
wants them to win more than I do. And I'm going to get them there. So
Yeah,
my standards
Yeah.
are really high, but
Yeah.
it's a tough love thing.
Yeah, and you do, because I've sent you people, and then I've talked to them after they've seen you, and
They come back with a tourniquet.
no, we've gone to visit him in the hospital.
Yeah, exactly. We go to visit them at the hospital, but you know what they say while they're lying in bed at the hospital?
Through the breathing tube. See, I taught them how to talk through breathing.
Distraction with our
My
leg
experience with Nancy Wolfson was life-changing.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I
hope
mean?
so.
Yeah.
And that's really cool, because I don't hear people say that about anybody.
Oh.
So
Thank you. It changes
Props to
my
you,
life.
man. Yeah.
It changes my life when you change somebody else's life, and not just make them money, although we never really forget that is the goal. When you change somebody else's life and help them realize who they are and give them permission to be their voice, really be their voice, like their voice, capital V, like Virginia
Yeah.
Woolf voice, like
yeah.
Help them find their perspective and express themselves. Being a portal for somebody else to do that is just
Yeah.
empowering to the portal.
Totally.
Can you explain what you mean by brand casting?
Again, it's the empathy thing, right? You have to understand how you're perceived in the marketplace. One of the most confusing things a talent can do is present themselves as an entire roster.
Right.
Talent agents, casting people, the interwebs, they have a roster.
Yeah.
The roster exists in the voices that they have
Yeah.
exist across the broad spectrum of all the people doing voiceover. You want to figure out what's unique and evocative about your personal style so that that's what you bring to your copy, and you don't obscure that with trying to be a people pleaser or let them hear how nice your voice is,
Right.
or trying to do what you think trailers or promos always do. Let them hear your point of view and your perspective
Right.
on things, and without doing silly voices, unless you are a real human jukebox, and that's in an entirely different bucket of a conversation.
Right.
But really bringing your own unique perspective to your sound and your style, and relaxing enough to really let that come through. There was a Scottish poet, Robert Burns, and he said, "Oh, what a power to see ourselves as others see us." Right? That's
Yeah.
branding.
Nice, yeah.
And when you can, and that's also business, right?
It
Because
is.
when you see yourself how other people see you, you know how to present yourself to them.
Absolutely.
And ironically enough, it just comes from relaxing and dropping the walls and dropping the artifices and unleashing and unlocking and just letting yourself be you and hosting the emotion in the way that you've ever been in that emotion without trying to people please or happify people or give them what you think commercials sound like, but relax and let yourself become that story. And so it's interesting, the best branding really comes from relaxing.
Trusting
Nice.
that you're enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, you are a life changer. You're awesome. I have a question for you, okay? What, and kind of think about it for a second. What do you like most about yourself?
I like that I'm smart. And I like that I
great.
can say that I'm smart.
Yeah, I love saying that I'm smart, even when
Right?
I'm not.
Exactly, right? I like that I feel confident enough to say
Yeah.
that I'm smart. And not to make this about my students again, but I live a rather codependent life off of all of them. And I think that one of the biggest injustices I see is when people hide something that's great about themselves.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of women who trivialize themselves through their voice or through their actions. And there are actually some smart people in there, and they don't let it out, and they don't feel okay to say
Absolutely.
that they are.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's one of the things that gives me the most confidence.
Good for you.
That's what gave rise to my coursework. That gave rise to me vetting out the career that I've got.
Yeah.
And hopefully in time I'll get a little more emotionally smart. You know, I always had book smarts, and it's not the same thing as
Yeah.
emotional intelligence,
True,
right? And I'm working on that part.
Good. So you're not perfect yet.
No, it's all a work in progress. Flawed.
I had read, and I loved this. I'm going to read this so I get it directly. You said that it's my responsibility as a teacher to teach you and not to judge whether you're teachable.
I had 2 emails about that today.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're plugged in.
She's plugged in.
Oh, you're plugged
We're
in.
plugged in.
A lot of people email me when they're interested in enlisting for the coursework, right? And they'll say, will you please tell me if I really have no snowball's chance in hell of achieving anything at this,
Right.
because I want
Right.
to know.
Yeah.
And I completely respect and appreciate where that question's coming from. Listen, I'm expensive. It's a long process. It's an uncomfortable process. And like forging a diamond out of coal, I mean, you got to stick around, and it sometimes gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they want to know, I think also, mostly, frankly, on the issue of expenses. Like, they don't want to go pour a ton of money into it, right, if they think that they're not good at it.
Sure.
And I also think that that question comes from them ever having been in a class, possibly even a group class, where they're sitting next to somebody who's really struggling. And they experience something where the coach or the teacher is encouraging, which is great, which is fine, but doesn't really give them any kind of constructive criticism as to how to get something from A to L. And the other people in the class are sitting there thinking, shoot, is that me? Is that me? Like, because we all know that that person doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of making it in this
Right,
business.
right.
Is that me? Because if that's ever me, I want somebody to tell me.
Exactly.
Right? And so they ask me before they climb on into this expensive thing, please, if I'm that person, will you please tell me? And what I say to them is that I'm not that teacher that they might have experienced, and I really do feel like a lot of this is more teachable than they might have realized or might have experienced in the past.
Right.
And I'm going to shine a flashlight on the areas where they've got challenges, and I hold myself to the same standard to which I hold them, and if they're having a challenge, I got to up my game and get it out of them.
There you go.
And so I don't want to predict that somebody's not going to make it. I mean, somebody told that to Scott Rummel.
Hello?
You know,
Exactly.
I'm sure
You
there
don't
were-
have the
you
voice
know,
for this
Yeah,
business.
right.
You
Exactly.
should.
There are a lot. That was on your show, right?
Yeah.
And so I used to represent Scott. He's a lovely guy.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm sure this town is filled. This business is filled. This
Yeah.
industry is filled with people who were discouraged early, and I don't think that's any more judicious either. Really,
Yeah.
like I'm here to teach. I'm not here to judge whether somebody's teachable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody is professionally challenging, the trap door opens pretty quickly because
Yes.
I just don't give any quarter to that.
Yeah.
And when just for people that what does that mean, professionally challenging? Being
They
late.
make them, well, they make themselves what I call a homework person.
Okay.
And, my reputation is important, and the reason agents and other casting people and other talent in the world refer people to study with me is because of all the students that have come before that next person who have made us all look good by how they conduct themselves out there in the world. It's the stuff your mom and dad should have taught you, and some people didn't get that.
Exactly.
And, one or two people can ruin it for the whole class trip. And so I've got to either point out to people when they are being emotionally difficult, unprofessional, trying to wangle out of agreements that I've made with them, simple things like that.
Yeah.
Blaming, like if they're having when people are challenged with a learning process, it's interesting to watch how they receive it or fight it.
Right.
And I'll let them blame me for why they're having a difficult time learning to a point. And then there becomes a point where there's just all this lashing out that's unleashed. And if we can't kind of like reshape that and bring that back into a focus and turn it into something positive, they're a loose cannon out there. And I can't afford it, and the other people who've come before them who've done the hard work can't afford it, and the future students who haven't studied with us can't afford them ruining for the class trip either. So
Yeah.
Well, your teaching sessions should become like a reality show or something like that. Sounds like there's some pretty crazy stuff going on, right?
Yes,
Right?
maybe.
I can't talk about it.
Okay, we can't talk about it. Good for you.
When you can, you're welcome back.
I have it easy because when people call me and say, Chuck, can you please tell me if I have what it takes to make it in this business? What I always say is,
Will your check clear?
what I always say is, you need to call Nancy Wolfson and she'll show you if you've got what it
Right,
takes.
yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
If a person's got enough passion and enough fire, I can get them there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd be amazed what I've gotten over the fence.
Yeah.
Just amazed, really.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
And you'd be amazed the people who you would think, just have a pretty voice or that kind of thing, are absolutely and positively unteachable because they're just not receptive to the learning process. And I'm sure you've run across this as well, right? But like you come to, there are all kinds of people who want the end without the work.
Yeah.
And that
Not
ain't
gonna
happening
happen.
here. No.
Not going to happen.
Let's talk about Brain Tracks Audio.
She's
First
ready.
of all, the name is fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
Where did that come from? I'm always curious and interested to find out how people choose their brand.
One of the biggest misconceptions about voiceover is that it has any too much to do with the pitch and tone and sound of your voice. I mean, it doesn't hurt if somebody has an attractive one, but it's not what really drives the machine. It's not what really generates the booking. It's not what in any way drives the point of view.
Right.
And it's about text analysis, coming to understand yourself, understanding who you are in the marketplace, understanding. Brain. It starts in the brain, and then it comes out of your mouth. You have to deconstruct the text. It starts in what I would say is the first stages of my coursework is sort of a media class. What form of media is this audition in? Is it TV, radio?
Yeah.
Deconstructing the text, it's a bit of a media class. Then it's a bit of an English class because you have to figure out
How to
the
read.
essential point of the story. Well, sure, but you have to understand before it even comes out of your mouth. It's a media class, it's an English class. You have to understand what's the point of the story. What's my emotional point?
Sure.
When I climb into this story and I make it my own, what am I getting at? What am I saying? And what are the operative words on that journey in that story that I'm telling? What's my relationship to picture, if there is any? Then it
Right.
becomes a bit of an acting class. Okay, so you need to take everything that you've evaluated from an English class standpoint and take it over to the theater department and figure out how to inhabit those moods and tell that
Right.
story as if it were your own, authentically, even though you didn't wake up this morning to say any of that.
Right.
And then it becomes a bit of a music class where you have to learn how to manage this instrument and rhythm, tempo, mouthwork, placement, and all of that. And then the confluence of all of those things is the education that teaches you how to break down and perform copy. Then that's all housed in your personal style, which is a different area of work that I do with people.
Yeah.
And all of that starts on the inside and rides the tracks last. So it's the brain and then the tracks.
Nice.
Yeah. So the brain starts in the brain, figure all that out,
Then
comes
it
out
rides
of your
the
mouth,
tracks.
then it ends up in the tracks.
Exactly. And then, of course, we have the clever little pun of tracks. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Love
That
it.
must have taken you like days to come up with that.
yeah, it took some thought.
Okay, good for you. What do you think are some of the most misconceptions that people have when they're trying to break into the voiceover business?
Well, most certainly that the voice has any too much to do with it, which we discussed.
Yes.
Without getting too kumbaya and woo-woo about this, the misperceptions people have are the misperceptions about their own abilities. So many people are riding the I think I can't train. Oh, they say they want to do something, and then they get 1 inch deep into the water and they go, I can't. I'm not good enough. If they've done any kind of research, they know that you don't have to live in a major market anymore.
Right.
So that used to be one of the biggest perceptions, but that's really changed.
Right.
I got to get an agent. That's, that's one of the things that's still absolutely desirable, valuable, and more golden the higher you climb the ranks of who those agents are.
Yeah.
Absolutely, no question. But the idea that I need a demo so that I can get an agent, and then the steel gate comes down.
Yeah.
And no, I say you need an education so that you can get the inventory on yourself, so that you can build a business.
Yeah.
Inventory being a demo or demos, and a website, and all the things that you need to build a business.
Yeah.
And so that you can go shop for opportunity providers.
Yeah.
And these days, agents are amongst those opportunity providers. What's really awesome is that there's never been a better time to get into voiceover, because you do not have to live in a major market, and you don't have to stand or fall on whether or not a human being opportunity provider takes to you or not.
Yeah.
Well, kind of on that note, you've become a casting resource for your students. Do you want to talk about what you're
that's
doing
pretty
with that?
neat.
That's pretty cool. You're
Yeah.
doing freelance casting.
Absolutely. I've done that actually since the launch of my coaching business. And without going into too much detail, I have several agents here, there, and everywhere, and I mean like really everywhere, using me as a casting hub. So what had happened over the years is, again, due to the hard work of the students who've come before today's students, they would spend the money, do the work, get the demo, get out there, and get signed by agents, especially back in the day when agents were the only opportunity providers.
Sure.
And they represented us all so well, the talent, and they booked work. I mean, because come to find out, this stuff works. And the agents were, and the agents were really thrilled with that, because, they're making money. And so they became very amenable to signing new BrainTrack students that would approach them for representation. And now sometimes they don't want to engage a full contract with somebody, and they don't want to necessarily get married to talent. They just want to date them. That's okay. I say to talent all the time, like, they come to me and they say, well, the agent hasn't offered me a contract. That's okay.
Yeah.
So they're willing to hip pocket?
Yeah, exactly.
They call
That's
it
the
hip
term.
pocket.
Yeah.
Right? And I compare it to marriage, and I say, listen, don't nag these people for a ring. If you're getting opportunities, that's all that you care about.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
great.
And so a lot of times agents come to me on a quarterly basis saying, who have you got? And it's thanks to the work that I've done with people, but I have to give the credit right back to the people who've studied with me. It's thanks to how they've shown up in the world.
Yeah. They're ready, but they're
so,
ready to go into the marketplace.
Absolutely.
Right, and they are the ones who, with the work that I've done with them, have made it a richer soil for the future students.
Nice.
We write or we write? That concludes part 1 with Nancy Wolfson. Be sure and tune in next week, because some of you guys submitted some videos asking Nancy some questions, and they're all going to be answered next week.
That's right. So stay with us. And in the meantime, keep up with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest at VO Buzz Weekly. Take care, everybody. And just remember, you always have time for a little buzz.